Commencement, the beginning of a new era in higher education by Kate Colbert and Joe Salustio with contributions by Elvin Freites is now available for pre-order on Amazon. Get your Kindle edition or your softbound book. It's going to be
amazing.
Unmuddle helps your community college to drive enrollments and revenue. Community colleges help with workforce development programs to compete on a national and global scale, offering those services to employers. It's time for a new era in higher education. Check out Unmuddle at unmuddle.com/colleges and claim your college for free. Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to EdUp on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. Dr. Joe Salustio back with you on another episode as we fast approach over 500 episodes and zero in on our target of 200,000 downloads by the end of this year, which, funny enough, we had our best day ever last week. Well, when you hear this episode come out, it's going to be weeks from now, but what week are we in? Last week was like the 15th or 16th of August. We had 1,667 single-day downloads, which was pretty incredible. It smashed our previous record of 1,100 in a day. We don't know which episodes people are listening to, but they're listening a lot, and we appreciate you. We just want to say thanks, because without you, there would be no EdUp Experience, and it is continuing to evolve. We hope we bring you and continue to bring you the strongest and most relevant voices in the entirety of higher education. And I know that we will, because my schedule is packed every single day at 12 noon at lunch Central Standard Time through now January 15th. So I will be talking a lot between now and then. And I'm going to talk a lot today, but I'm not going to do it alone. In fact, I have begged and sequestered a community college president all the way from New Hampshire to co-host with me. You know him as a previous guest. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen. He is Dr. Chuck Lloyd, and he's president at White Mountains Community College. What's going on, Chuck?
Great to be back. It's nice to be on the other side of the microphone, too. I get to have a little fun here with Kevin. I'm excited. Thank you.
I like to, that is kind of a weird perspective change, right? You're getting pestered with questions, and now you get to be the pesterer of another guest. Are you ready for this? Are you ready for this, Chuck?
I was born ready for this.
I'm all ready.
And we know Kevin's ready. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen. He's our guest today. We're going to bring him right away. He is Dr. Kevin Drumm, and he is president of SUNY Broome Community College. Of course, SUNY State University of New York. What's going on, Kevin?
Too much these days going on, Joe. Looking forward to having a dialogue about it with you.
Yeah, there is a lot going on, isn't there? Especially at today's community colleges. And well, SUNY Broome is kind of unique, right? I think it's the only SUNY. It's not the only SUNY. It's the only community college within the SUNY system, unless I'm off. Or is it?
So we have 30
community colleges.
30 community colleges in SUNY. Yes.
What am I thinking? I must be off my game today. All right. So what makes SUNY Broome unique?
Well, geographically, we're unique. We're on the Pennsylvania border and southern tier of upstate New York, about an hour north of Scranton and an hour south of Syracuse. So you have to go 40 to 50 miles in any direction to find another community college, although we do have a sister university, Binghamton University, right across the river, just a few miles from here, with which we have a number of partnerships and about to grow a couple of them substantially.
You know why this is so horrible of me to get that wrong? And I never edit this podcast because people, like I would normally edit that out and go, oh my God, I'm such a horrible podcast host that I forgot that. But I went to a SUNY school. This is what makes that even worse. I went to SUNY
which one?
I went to SUNY Oneonta. Okay.
Oh yeah, just down the road.
Yeah, just down the road.
That's 50 miles east of us, although you got to go a lot further than that to hit another community college. You got to go all the way to Schenectady.
Right.
Community college. It's a long way.
I'm from Syracuse. Okay, so I'm from Syracuse. I went to SUNY Cortland my first year, SUNY Oneonta for the next 3, and I interviewed the SUNY Oneonta president last week. I have failed epic proportions. Getting my tongue twisted today.
Yeah,
How do
if
you
you
like
grew
that,
up
Kevin?
in Syracuse, you grew up right around the corner from Onondaga Community College.
Right, which I grew up in Liverpool, New York, in Liverpool and Baldwinsville, New York. That's where I'm from, and so I have friends all over Binghamton, Rochester.
Not anymore, you don't.
Yeah, not
I not
anymore.
anymore,
You
and
got
I've betrayed
Monroe up in Rochester, of course, and
yeah.
Tennessee on the way. And
I've betrayed my entire brethren from upstate New York, and
They've already
anyway,
stopped listening at this point.
this is why I brought Chuck on, because he's so much better at this than I am. So it's like, I got to bring somebody on that knows what they're doing. How are things going for you, Kevin? Just set the stage for us, for people that don't understand the SUNY system outside of New York. You know, I think people have heard of SUNY, but it is an expansive system. And tell me how SUNY Broome fits in your view.
well, even people in SUNY don't understand the SUNY system. So yeah, at least there you're on the same page with the rest of us. You didn't miss that one. There's 64 campuses, 4 research universities, 30 regional and technical institutions, a handful of the original ag and tech schools, and then the 30 community college. We're one of the oldest. There were 5 of us that started as technical institutes right on the heels of World War II. To get those veterans into the classroom. So in 1946, I can't name the other 4 that were started at the same time. So we're one of the oldest, and so infrastructure was a huge challenge when I got here 13 years ago. The campus was kind of falling down, and not just the campus part, all the non-sexy part. The water, the electric, the sewer, the drainage, the roofs. I mean, everything, because the campus was started to be built in the mid 50s. We started, like a lot of colleges, we started in an old abandoned building downtown that after a few years burned down, like so many of them. And the county moved us out here to the edge of the city of Binghamton. We're a little town of Dickinson, but you wouldn't know it if you were driving around. You'd think it was still part of Binghamton, New York. So started out with the technical roots, but like so many, when we became a community college and joined SUNY in the early 50s, when SUNY was created, and brought on the liberal arts and transfer and all that, and like many community college, the lion's share of our enrollment now today is the business and liberal arts and STEM transfer. Is the majority of our enrollments, although our largest division is health sciences. We have the largest health sciences division among all 30 community colleges. We are unique that way. Not necessarily the highest enrollment, because we don't have the population that downstate has, or even a Rochester has, but we have the most programs, most health science programs of all 30 community colleges, which is a mixed blessing, because you probably know enough about community colleges to know they're the most expensive programs you can offer, with the exceptions of welding and automotive. So that also gives you a sense of our demographics. We're upside down. The only growing population we have in the southern tier is 60 plus. And our teenage population is the fastest and most shrinking in New York.
Sounds a lot like northern New Hampshire.
Yeah, yeah. We're in the process of losing 25% of our teenagers by the middle, just a few years away. From 15 years ago, we will have lost 25% of our teenagers, and then it kind of, as of this year, it kind of bounces around. One year it might go up 2%, another year it might go down 2%, but we've had 2 years where we lost, in 1 year, 10% of our high school graduating population in the county. 2 years out of the last 5, we lost 9 or 10% just in those 2 years.
So what's that trickling down to your enrollment here and enrollment projections for the next few years? What does that look like?
Yeah, we're down a few percentage points this year, but it's better than the double digits of the last 2 years.
Right.
We'd hoped to level out. Graduating class this past June was up a couple of percentage points from the 9% drop last year, and so we had hoped. But the economy, you can't go anywhere that isn't desperate for. There's signs everywhere. Bus drivers. If I wanted to be a bus driver in semi-retirement, I could drive 5 buses. I mean, there's just such an extraordinary and teachers. as well, and a shortage of teachers. It's just so anybody who wants to work can work and get a good job. So consequently, some of the more hands-on kind of work that people don't necessarily prefer is really struggling, because there are good jobs out there for people without a college degree right now. Lots of them.
There's good jobs for people without a college degree, Kevin, and then there's also the public perception that a college degree may not have as much value as it has previously. All the articles, I say all the articles, but it's very rare that you see an article go, yes, higher education, go today. It's always, it's failing and it's not going to make it, and there's going to be mergers, acquisitions, kids are not going to college anymore. Do you think there's some elasticity in this? And maybe there's good jobs right now. The economy will hopefully stay on the right path, but usually we know it's cyclical, and people who don't go to college now, are they setting themselves up for I don't know, topping out in the short to near term if they don't get the right formal education?
Not as much as past eras, I'm afraid, because of that shortage of high school graduates. And it's not going to bounce back anytime soon, particularly in the Northeast. The Northeast has been shrinking faster than any other part. Northeast and Midwest, the core of the Midwest, have been shrinking faster than any other areas of the country, because we don't have as much immigration. That's been the big impact in the South and the West. To mitigate it somewhat, there's just going to be, there was always that chunk of high school graduates who went into the military or straight into the workforce. And the military is desperate now for people as well, because we don't have those high school graduates coming out to do the traditional things that high school graduates did. They simply weren't born. Now we're looking at the wake of the Great Recession, and look out. In the middle of the next decade, we're going to be looking at the COVID birth dearth. We've had 2 or 3 years in a row of the lowest birth rates in the history of the United States. They just keep getting lower. So, the jobs are going to be there one way or another. Now, yes, you're not going to be able to go as far as you might with a degree in many fields. There's no question about that, whether it's teaching or engineering or the health sciences. You're going to have to, get, if that's what you want to do, you're going to have to get the degree. But I'll tell you, our local power company, which is owned by one of the big international conglomerates, like so many of them. They own Central Maine Power, for instance, up in Maine, where my wife is from, and they also own NYSEG, New York State Electric and Gas here in New York. They no longer require a bachelor's degree for engineers. They require an associate degree for engineers now.
Really?
Yes. And that's, it's changing. It's the face of work is changing in so many ways. Yeah. It's literally changing, and it is figuratively changing as we speak here. So it's not going to be like it was, but we'll have a recession here at some, hopefully not. So it's the sad irony of community colleges. We boom during a recession, and we don't root for recessions, for obvious reasons. So that's the next time, because community colleges, are struggling for enrollment all across the country, yeah. not just in the Northeast.
Chuck, this is familiar for you, right? I mean, this is familiar territory.
Yeah. I was going to say, and there's another impact we haven't talked about, and I'd love to get your take on this, Kevin, is, I think Matt Reed out of Brookdale, down in New Jersey, Brookdale Community College, did a piece in Inside Higher Ed and called it Fishing in Our Ponds, with the four-year colleges and universities really trying to take students that typically would have gone to community college, whether they're not as prepared, putting together different aid packages, Pell-eligible types of students. Do you see an impact, another angle on enrollment there?
No question. We see it across the board. Almost all of the colleges have lowered their minimum GPA for transfers. Yeah. It might be even, just a couple tenths of a point for some of the more competitive ones, but still they're dipping further into our pool, and many more are transferring after their freshman year. Yeah. Than used to, which doesn't help retention,
killing our completion rates.
Yeah, no question about that. And then particularly in the STEM areas, if a student is interested in STEM and they're a good enough student to be interested in STEM, now you're starting to compare your local community college program with the baccalaureates that are dipping further into the academic pool to fill their seats, particularly the private baccalaureates that are dipping further into the pool to fill their seats, and throwing a lot of money at those kids who are industrious enough to want to study a STEM career. So we struggle there, and have for a while now. Even before COVID, we struggled there because those students have options simply because they're industrious enough and have at least decent enough grades to get into a STEM program.
Yeah, and discount rates, as you mentioned, the aid packages, some of the discount rates start to level off, with some of the public 4 years that say, geez, you're darn close to the community college level. Why not go away, get the 4-year experience for the price of a community college, right? So
no question. I mean, it happened to me. I'm a baby boomer. I'm in the middle of the baby boom. And it happened to me, Boston University and NYU, for my bachelor's and doctorates, through so much money at me. It cost me no more to attend Boston University and NYU than it would have to attend the University of Massachusetts. And that was a long time ago. And now there's just all the more of that going on.
As long as you're a Red Sox fan, though. As long as you're a Red Sox fan.
We're all Boston all the way. We're huge Patriots fans. But we're avid Boston fans across the board.
I'm going to hit my incorrect button many more times if you guys keep it going here.
Hey, I'm here in the heart of New York, so I get lots of incorrect buttons all the time.
Oh gosh, this is getting. Dr. Chuck Lloyd is showing off some kind of 6-time world champion New England Patriot trophy.
Yeah.
What he doesn't know is that if you live in New York, it's Giants, no Jets, Yankees, no Mets. If you've never heard that before, I'm going to keep this incorrect button warmed up. Is there any more sports talk?
We have Giants fans in the family, believe it or not.
Well, sorry to hear that.
That's not my immediate, but my brother-in-law and nephew are huge Giants fans because the grandfather was before there was ever even a Boston Patriots team. Yeah. So it just stayed in the family.
What Dr. Chuck Lloyd doesn't know is this is the first and last time he will co-host in the EdUp Experience. I
think I just got the mute button permanently.
Yeah.
Let's not be sports snobs here.
Yeah, right. That's good, right? So that's good talk. I like that. And what I like about what you guys said and what's really interesting is, and I don't know if we've really talked about it before, and we should talk more about it, is what you brought up, Chuck, that 4-year universities are refashioning their business model, perhaps to pull from the community college pool. This is I don't think anybody's ever brought it up. We've done this 490 times. I'm not sure that we've said it that specifically before. I, of course, work at a 4-year university called Lindenwood University, and I look at things and go, yeah, we're doing many of the same things. We've got certificate programs. We're looking at, should we go with a associate degree program? Should we not? Should we stay at the bachelor's level? Do we go for academic partnerships and BRID partnerships, or do we create our own degrees? And because of the same reasons you're talking about, everybody's tuition dependent to some degree, and you need more students. And where are they coming from if there's just less? One of the answers that we believe we are taking is the adult student population, right? Which some college no degree, which also community colleges pull from that pool. 39 million some college no degree students. Is that part of the recruiting strategy for SUNY Broome? Do you look at the adult student population, or are you looking more at the transfers, the high school? No
question. We started a whole adult market effort. We always had 30% of our enrollment as students over 25, but we put a big push on it about 5 years ago. I mean, long before COVID was on anybody's radar screen. But when you do that, it's awful hard to compete with the Arizona States and the University of Maryland global campuses and Southern New Hampshire universities. Speaking of New Hampshire, I worked right down the road for a number of years in Springfield, Massachusetts, from the current president of who's transformed Southern New Hampshire University. So those monster players have a big lock on the market. So again, much like the small privates dipping into our freshman pool, we've got all the mega distance universities dipping into our adult pool, provide, if you can afford it, and they're not that expensive, providing a lot more flexibility than we can provide in a government bureaucracy with a unionized faculty.
That's a tough statement to end there.
I was going to say, is that we just throw the episode off at that point? Just go, okay. Do you think, and Chuck, I'll pass it to you after I ask this, but Kevin, do you think to that point that higher ed is too bureaucratic? Are we?
Oh, no question.
Are we not as student-centric?
Public and private. I mean, both at Boston University and NYU, they were hugely bureaucratic. Monster institutions, so to some extent, they had to be. But it was mind-boggling to me, coming from public sector as a huge chunk of my career, how bureaucratic both Boston University and NYU are.
That's why when I hear the word committee, it gives me like the willies.
That's where great ideas go to die.
Yeah. Right.
Over to you, Chuck.
Yeah, I was just I had a question. I mean, just before we started here, you said you were retiring. Congratulations.
Next summer, yes, semi-retired.
Which as anybody doing any kind of search, and thanks for the heads up, the fair warning, right? Because you've got to somehow fill those shoes you're in. You got to figure that out. What's on the horizon for you, and what are some suggestions, recommendations for us that are going to be in higher ed, hopefully for the next 20 plus years?
Be creative. For those of you, be more creative than you ever thought about being. I mean, for instance,
yes.
if you look at the Rowan University model, I just saw, I don't know, it was a Facebook or Twitter post today. They celebrated their 7th anniversary, of taking on 3 community colleges that I forget what the name of Rowan University used to be in Southern New Jersey, but they now have 3 community colleges under their umbrella in Southern New Jersey. And if you look at the reports on it and the data, they're doing very well. Both the university and the community colleges are doing quite well, at least based on the data that I've seen.
Sure.
And now that's creative, what they're doing there, and it's a more complex model than I thought it was. They're not full mergers, I learned recently. So, and I can tell you, we are looking to much further partner with our sister university just across town here. To go forward. They reject 25,000 students a year.
Send those across the river.
Yeah,
on,
some of those 25,000, and we already have a joint admission program with them. It's small and selective at this point. We get about 200 students a year, and we've done that for about 10 years. Something I started shortly after I got here with an interim president there. And it's continued very successful. We're looking to grow that, but that's a pretty competitive one for students coming into that. They're on the cusp of being, because SUNY Binghamton Binghamton University is the most competitive academically to get admitted to of all the SUNYs for undergraduate, and their business schools in the top 50 in the nation. They're like 38th or something now. So. A lot of people want to attend there, and we can help them if they can't quite. We can help more of them if they can't quite get in the doors. So I don't know about the Rowan University model. We'll see where this goes, but we're in serious conversations to do a lot more with them here going forward. And it's this new world that's brought about their interest in dramatically growing what we do in our partnerships. Previously, they were happy with the 200 students. And we would ask them, could we grow this? Could we grow this? And now we're going to work earnestly on growing that partnership and others.
Amazing.
Unmuddle's mission is to provide learners, particularly working learners, with multiple pathways to learning and development, with clear signaling as to the time, cost, and uncertainty of each. Unmuddle is powered by community colleges, particularly innovative community colleges, to provide a skills-to-job marketplace. Come join the nation's top community college network today. To get started, go to unmuddle.com/colleges. That's UNMUDL.com/colleges.
Creative, innovative, and expanding partnerships. I mean, it sounds like the name of the game.
It is. In fact, I just heard that from my buddy down at Hack. He posts all the time. Ski, yes.
I know ski.
He was touting the benefit of partnerships today. Again, either on Twitter or Facebook. I'm not sure which one it was.
Probably Twitter if it was ski.
Yeah. He was singing the praises of partnerships just today on I guess probably Twitter then.
So what do you tell your younger self, Kevin, about running a community college these days? It's interesting that college presidents.
You don't want to know what I tell my younger self.
Don't run a community college. No, I'm just kidding. But we talk about we've talked to a bunch of presidents over the last couple of weeks about what you could say, how you say it, how you could be your true organic self with all the different stakeholders that you have and people you have attending community college, from students, community, faculty, who sometimes, if they're adjunct, are teaching at multiple institutions. And how do you say what you want to say without saying something that's going to bring the house down or reporters to your front door and so on, and that the job of college president is harder today than it's ever been before. No one, when I've said that, no one that I've ever had on has gone, no, I'm not so sure about that. That there's like wide agreement after the pandemic, the sensitivities of today's human beings. How do you operate and survive at the same time as a president?
Yeah, with the politics and the cultural sensitivities, it's tough. You're going to step on some landmines, period. Even when you think whatever you're saying or doing is pretty darn innocent and has in your mind, has no cultural or political overtones, somebody's going to find one somewhere at some time, particularly as public as these jobs are. And again, we're as a public community college and where we're so entrenched and involved in the community, it's just going to happen. So you have to be mindful of it all the time. You still need to be yourself and speak the truth and speak your mind, but you have to be mindful of it. If you want to be successful and stay in your job for more than 6 months or a year, you have to be constantly mindful of it.
Yeah, I think that's well said. I would just say, we were not taking these positions. We did not accept these roles to make people happy. We are here to make students successful and to meet the needs in the community. And if you're not upsetting somebody here or there, I don't think you're working hard enough.
Absolutely. When people ask me, am I staying out of trouble? I say no.
What if you upset more people? You're doing your job better?
Yeah, you get to stay at a place for 10 years.
That's funny. I like that. And, we do talk a lot about student success here on EdUp and, what separates, one institution from another. And I say that because there's a lot of parity in academic quality and, our colleges are all accredited by the same folks, depending on what region you live in. And, it's not like you could say,
what, politics, just ask the governor of Florida.
There you go. And academic quality is good here and it's good there, and it's good at this community college and it's good at this 4-year. And you might perceive it's better in one place or another if you work there, or if you want to create some level of elitism. So one of the ways that we separate ourselves as institutions is through marketing, is through awareness. In community colleges, for the most part, you have state funding and you have limitations on how you can communicate and when, based on what your budgets are. What do you do in your area to better communicate what you can offer at SUNY Broome, and how do you get the message out there?
Social media, social media, social media.
Does that include TikTok and you dancing, Kevin? Because if it does, I need the channel, and if it doesn't, then maybe that's a way to go.
Definitely doesn't. The only thing that includes me dancing are weddings, so. But no, and that, it's my marketing office. Social media is by far the most effective, and we can get somewhat past the regional barriers that all community colleges face in marketing, because you can only control the social media so much. And you can also do what geofencing and all that sort of thing. And, we're fortunate here where we are, we're just 3 hours from the city. And so we can use social media in the metro area, and CUNY doesn't flinch. That it's not that big a deal, for them, because, they're the 10,000 pound gorilla. But our sister institutions have been out of shape if we do any advertising in their backyard, and vice versa. So, and we all have residence halls in New York, which is unusual for the majority of us. For a state like New York, such an industrial state, like rural states have had, like New Hampshire, have had community college, residence halls for a long time. But everybody in New York has them, which I found surprising. And it's one of the things the county and the board wanted me to do when I came here, was build a residence hall, because we have a chargeback formula, and we were paying too many chargebacks to other counties for students leaving to go live in their residence halls. So that's one of the first things I did, was build a residence hall here. I have a residential life background, so I spent 9 years in residential life. So that was, I don't want to say it was easy, but it wasn't anything new to me to develop a residential campus almost 10 years ago. But with 25 of us of the 30 SUNY community colleges, I believe, have residence halls, and a couple who don't have their own have private ones literally right across the street from the campus.
Really?
Really.
Kevin, as you're talking about the relationship, I'm hearing almost a competition among, some of your sister colleges. Where do the collaborative efforts come in? Have you started discussing things like sharing programming, rotating faculty, although unionized, teaching at multiple locations? Where is some of that stuff as you're talking about being innovative and having to collaborate?
Yeah, that's a very good question. We've tried to do some of the faculty sharing, and again with the unions, it just doesn't work. We're going to have to get past that at some point, I think, but that's it's a tough egg to crack. But we do have a couple of programs that we share statewide. One is our clinical lab program is offered statewide, and it's all online except for the clinical part. And we have lab partners all over the state where you can go and do your clinical in a lab that we've partnered with all over the state. But everything else is online. And people might be a little surprised that it's a clinical lab program that's all online except for their clinical experience. And we did that with the statewide, I'm not even sure what the acronym is, but the Clinical Lab Association asked us to do that because they had such a shortage way before COVID of having lab folks. So that program's hugely successful, and we share that now with another, I can't remember which sister school. We're doing it more directly with, where they do the first year, and then they do the science and the gen eds and that sort of thing, and then the students do the clinical lab with us. I can't remember which sister institution is it, because that's a few years old now. But we're doing the reverse with Mohawk Valley and Surge Tech.
Yeah.
Because the 4 hospitals in the area wanted us to add Surge Tech, but you got to put $1 million into a lab to do about 6 students a year, and we just couldn't afford it. So they'll support the clinicals in the hospitals, but we're having the coursework being sent here from Mohawk Valley, because they put their program online during COVID.
Perfect. And now you're not duplicating and looking at another accreditation or something as well.
Exactly.
It's smart.
Kevin, you've got a number of workforce dev programs. I'm assuming they're non-credit or are they non-credit or for very small?
We have both.
Both.
We have a number of AASs, that are workforce focused on the credit side with associate degree. And we have a number of workforce certificates through our continuing education.
That's great because workforce development, short course training, stackables, and so on. It looks like you work with other marketplaces like on Muddle for to bring your courses to bigger audiences. What's the interest in? What's the interest in? Let me think about how I want to ask it. Is it easy to pin that a student coming in wants workforce development, non-credit courses, and this student over here wants a degree? Is it that clean, or
they're pretty distinct? They're pretty distinctive markets, and then it's our job to try to entice those who are coming in for the workforce training to think about moving into a credit certificate or degree program at some point after they've gone through the training program here. And that's a pretty standard pipeline for community colleges all across the country. Some do it better than others. Our faculty are very traditional Northeast, the New Englandy kind of faculty, and they don't love that pipeline. They want their credit students, and that's what they want. Trying to bridge that from the non-credit to credit and stackable credentials. Again, we've had about a 5-year initiative on that, and we're making some progress there, but that's a tough road to hoe in the Northeast.
Is it a sophisticated operational pipeline where you're measuring upgrades and email drip campaigns and that kind of thing, or is it more happenstance, or is it during your non-credit course you're upselling the degree? Is there sophistication around it?
Exactly. Or if we're doing corporate training, contract training for for corporate, we always make it a point to let folks know who are participating what their degree options might be if they don't already have a degree. I mean, lots of people going through, the workforce training, that we provide, whether it's our own, they're just coming in to get a certification or take a accounting class or whatever. A lot of folks already have a degree. And that's pretty common as well, or have some college behind them. We have a very high percentage of our population here in the Southern Tier, and it's called the 8 counties of the Southern Tier, that have some college and no degree. When I first got here, I thought, oh my God, that's a problem. The community college may be to blame there, but our retention rate was historically, in the old paradigm, very high. We were in the 28-30% category in the traditional retention measures for years. But then in the last decade, as the economy started overheating, our retention, started to noticeably, decrease because folks were either transferring early or getting jobs early.
Go ahead, Chuck. You look like you're about to.
Yeah, I mean, I just, I looked at your bio before, and hearing you talk about Res Life, if I can shift gears for a moment, as you're talking about retention, I was also a student activities, student life person early on in my days, and
My first decade.
yeah, student activities, to me,
Yeah.
it's not just, crepe paper and balloons and throw out food. It's, talk to me about, what student engagement looks like and how we're bridging post-COVID, people coming back on campus, what engagement looks like, how that leads to retention. What does that look like at SUNY Broome? What does the campus life look like?
We've always been big on sports here. We've been a big sports college, again, with, fees going down along with enrollment, we struggled there, and we've had to eliminate some programs. And I cried for a month when the NJCAA dropped hockey. We were one of the few community colleges in the country that had hockey, and we got kids from all over the country to come here to play hockey. But then a few years ago, NJCAA dropped it, and so we've got a beautiful ice arena, and we're the only ones not using it. Everybody around us.
You're talking to a guy who's in Berlin, New Hampshire, Hockeytown, USA. Come on.
Yeah. So we've always been big on. So we've got still have a dozen teams. It's been a challenge for us because we've been so sports oriented. Our student, and it's been a sad part for me, and we'll get there. I think we'll have the wheels turning by the time I'm done here next summer. Our student center is really an athletic center that happens to have a cafeteria and a bookstore. So years gone by, there was such an emphasis on athletics here. And I'm also a former community college athletic director, in addition to residential life and student activities. So that's how I, cut my teeth the first decade of my career. And then I jumped into distance learning for 10 years. That's a conversation we could have about what I might tell people coming up through now. And I got pleasantly sucked back into the traditional student services role after a decade in distance learning. Anyway, that's a very long story unto itself. At a small private Catholic college of all places.
Wow.
Yeah. So, where was I going with that? My career,
wherever you want to go.
My career bounced all over the place. Oh, we were talking about engagement. Yeah. So the next thing we have to do is invest. We're going to create. We've got a half-empty old science building. We call it Old Science because the next thing building a residence hall is build a brand new natural science building, and we're going to turn that into a student center annex. We need space. For that. We've always had a very active student assembly. Student government here has been very active, so that we've got real strength there and always have. We've got our new, DEI office, and we're having more and more engagement there all the time. We've always had an EOP program here, for instance, and they're very involved and very engaged. But we need to do more on the student activities front, especially now post-COVID, because rebuilding that momentum of all the clubs and programs that we had prior to COVID, has been a struggle for us. And we just were able to fill our student activities director position. We lost somebody not too long before COVID, and then COVID hit, and we said, well, what the heck, why go fill it, during COVID? But we did finally fill it. He came back in late spring, and he's a ball of energy, as young student activities people are, and we're looking forward to Nick helping us out there. But again, with everybody working, it's tough. So we continue to do more online and have students meet virtually because they're busy people. As you know, of course, all the adult students either raising families and or working or both. So we're going to continue to do more virtually with our groups, and our student assembly continued to meet quite regularly through COVID virtually, and so that's more of a traditional approach there. Except we need to focus on the facilities now that I'm pretty well caught up with our classrooms, because as I said, our classrooms were falling down when I got here 12 and a half years ago, and if you want to get run out of town fast by your faculty, you'll build a new student center while your classrooms are falling down.
What?
I am just amazed the amount of building you have done. It seems like everywhere you've gone, but really SUNY Broome, you've done so much construction, building. As you were saying, it needed life breathed into it. When you first got there, it's 1940s plus building. At what point are you saying, geez, demographics are heading in the wrong direction? Why are we pumping, people are doing more online, hybrid, virtual, et cetera. Why are we pumping all this money into physical facilities? Where does that balance lay?
Well, we have knocked 2 of them down. I had no idea, and you're right, but it wasn't really on my radar, because it's like being a president. You're on to the next project and you almost forget about the previous project. Somebody's running that for you now, and you're on to the next one. 11 buildings here have either been significantly renovated, built, or knocked down since I got here. So that's almost 1 a year since I'm here 12 and a half years. It's pretty amazing. And one of those buildings that was built is our one-stop economic development center for the county. We have our Chamber of Commerce, our IDA, our Manufacturing Association, a training facility for the huge credit union in the area. It's right here on campus.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, that the county had been for 20 years talking about a one-stop economic development center, and they never could get it off the ground. There was even money sitting in the bank that our previous senator had set aside for it, but they could never agree on where to put it in the county. We have the 3 major towns, Binghamton, Endicott, and Johnson City. If you're, you guys are too young to remember Endicott, Johnson Shoes, but this was the home, along with the home of IBM Computing for many, many years as well. And of course, they're both gone. I mean, IBM's not entirely gone, but it's gone from what we knew about.
Not there.
The head of the IDA approached me and said, what would you think about putting the one-stop economic development center on the campus? And this was kind of hush, sort of thing. The property has to be used for educational purposes. It's an educational trust that the county puts the land in. So probably 10 or 15 years ago, you wouldn't have been able to do it. But today, we're all about economic development anyway. That's half my job. Half my job is economic development. I'm co-chair of the Governor's Regional Economic Development Council here for the 8 counties of the Southern Tier. And that came after, but he approached me, and I talked about it with my board, and we kind of kept it hush hush for about a year, and then we opened up the conversation, including with my faculty, and they built the building. They had the money in the bank to put the beautiful building on the corner of our campus. And as part of the trade, they knocked one of the old buildings down for us that would have been adjacent to where they were going. They paid to have that knocked down as part of the deal. So we're thrilled to have them, the chamber and our IDA and our manufacturing association, and this bank training facility right here on campus. So that's one of the new buildings, and is one of the more creative things I've done in my career.
Great synergies. Yeah. That's nice.
And the other part was the number one complaint I got when I was interviewing was that, how poor shape the campus was in. Being built in the early 50s and not having, previously the philosophy was kind of, well, when it breaks, we'll fix it. There was no strategic planning around facilities really before I got here. So that immediately became a high priority for me, which, it's not sexy, unless you're building faculty a new classroom building or completely renovating their classroom building. They don't love the focus on infrastructure, but it had to be done. We had so many issues with our electric and our water and our drainage, and like I said, and roofs leaking and literally tarps hanging and ceiling. It was.
Well, now you've got your retirement job as a project manager for a construction firm.
That's a possibility. Yeah.
Well, Kevin, we like to ask 2 questions to wrap up every episode here on the EdUp Experience. Number 1, what did we not say about SUNY Broome that you'd like to say? Anything that's going on that you haven't said that we missed? And number two, what do you see as the future of higher education?
Well, I think the unmuddled thing that you mentioned, that's a real fun new horizon for us. When I was pitched to be one of the first colleges to, jump on the unmuddled ship, if you look at the amount of workforce development that community colleges are doing nationally, and the vision was to harness that and become the Amazon of workforce development in the nation, if not the world. That really excited me. We'll see where that all goes. We've been one of the more active schools in it, and for a long time had more enrollments than anybody else. Again, struggle for my faculty because it's all non-credit at this point, but we're getting there. And it also is a draw for some social press for my faculty to have a really cutting edge partnership like that with Untitled. I'm going to look forward to watching that in my semi-retirement to see where that goes, because the potential is boundless. For
the record, Dr. Parminder Yassel and Untitled is a great partner of the EdUp Experience podcast as well. We've been working together for a long time.
Love working with Parminder and the whole Untitled crew. So we're looking forward to see where that goes in the next several years, because again, the potential is limitless.
And what do you see as the future of higher ed?
Yeah, it could be. The other thing is look where you haven't looked before for where you see your vision for the future, yes. whatever it may be. You may, one of the things I've talked about, with my faculty, and they don't push back, and I'm a product of a tremendous community college that was a, top-notch junior college culture in Massachusetts. One of our potentials could be to just be a small junior college again, and do a really good job of transferring students on to bachelor's programs and then on to graduate school if they're going to do that. But we'll be a whole heck of a lot smaller than we've been for decades, if we want to keep going in that direction. Or do we want to continue to grow as we always had? And we grew really right up until just before COVID, in spite of losing the most teenagers throughout New York at 25%. We were the highest. Mohawk Valley's second highest, with about 20%, losing about 20% of their teenagers. We were at close to 25%. So, and we did pretty well until COVID hit, and then the job boom at post-COVID. So, my faculty still haven't given me an answer, at least not out loud.
Wait for it.
So you need to look to other things you might never have thought about, certainly pre-COVID or pre the last decade, when we all started hitting the workforce crunch, which started hitting our enrollment years ago. So again, there's the Rowan model, and you go to Georgia, Atlanta and Georgia Perimeter College, where they did a full merger. And again, if you look at the student success data there, it's very, very good. Now, if you look at the historic retention data, you'll see that. You'll see that the two-year programs that were directly affiliated with baccalaureate programs always had higher retention rates and higher graduation rates than a freestanding associate degree college. So that was not surprising. But who knows, whether, and lots of colleges have had two-year, lots of universities have had two-year colleges for decades. It's not that unusual. My own Boston University has a two-year college.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. I think the big takeaway for me is be creative. Be creative in ways that you haven't even thought about, which means you need to be more creative than you are. Dr. Chuck Lloyd, what do you think about your first co-hosted episode here of the EdUp Experience podcast?
Well, I had a blast, and this is fun. Just talking with you, Kevin. I've enjoyed it. And he's a New Hampshire guy. He's a Southern Maine guy. He's a Massachusetts guy. So more importantly, he's a Patriots fan. So that's all that matters to me.
Yeah, we should have done this a long time ago.
Before I outro my guest, I'd like to outro my New York Yankees, New York Giants fan co-host, Dr. Oh, wait a minute. I got that wrong. New England Patriots fan co-host. He's Dr. Chuck Lloyd, and he is president of White Mountains Community College. And this is not his first co-hosted episode. Oh, this is his first, but not last co-hosted episode of the Up Experience, even though I did threaten him earlier. We want to have him back. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest today, he's Dr. Kevin Drumm, and he's president of SUNY Broome Community College. Kevin, did you have good EdUp experience today?
I did. I had a great time. Let's do it again sometime.
Well, we'd love to. With that, ladies and gentlemen, you've just EdUp'd. Unmuddle helps your community college to drive enrollments and revenue. Community colleges help with workforce development programs to compete on a national and global scale, offering those services to employers. It's time for a new era in higher education. Check out Unmuddle at unmuddle.com/colleges and claim your college for free.